Hi everybody, my name is Whitley Beezer and I am an assistive technology specialist and a speech language pathologist for Forbes AAC. And today I'm going to demonstrate to you our ProSlate series of communication devices. And so I have our ProSlate 10 here. So this is a 10-inch dedicated device. And to start, I want to give you a little background or history of how Forbes came about with our ProSlate series. So about 5 to 6 years ago, there was this trend. A lot of communication device users were getting iPads with communication apps on them, or school districts were purchasing iPads with communication apps on them for our users. And this is a great way to provide and make it communication accessible to our users, but there were so many drawbacks with using an iPad. The first one, durability. So as you know, iPads, they shatter pretty easily, especially the population we're working with. They can be pretty rough on these devices. So being dropped, thrown, hidden, kicked, hit, an iPad can't withstand that type of damage. Another thing about them is this is somebody's voice, and so we need a loud volume. As a verbal communicator, I can raise my voice if I need to get somebody's attention. If I'm upset, I can show that through raising my voice even louder. And even with an iPad at max volume, it just doesn't meet those needs of a communication device user. Positioning and handling, we know the population that we work with, there's a great majority that are in different assistive devices, whether that be a wheelchair, a power chair, a walker, a scooter. There needs to be a way for that device to be positioned or mounted onto their way of mobility. Even if you do have an ambulatory user, there still needs to be a way for them to position and handle their device. And another drawback with an iPad is being able to fund or afford an iPad. A lot of families and even some school districts, they can't afford to just outright buy an iPad with a communication app on it. And then if it were to be damaged, maybe damaged beyond repair, you also then have to have the money to then be able to replace that. And beyond that, speaking with a communication app or a communication device, it can be foreign to a lot of individuals, whether that be a school staff, a family, even some therapists. And so whenever you just have an iPad with an app, you don't get that extra support. You don't get the availability of somebody to come and train. You can't just call up the person who created the app and ask for training support or technical support. And so those are some of the drawbacks that Forbes observed when they saw this trend of individuals using iPads for communication. So again, some of those were durability, volume, positioning and handling, procurement, technical support, training. All of those were pain points, and Forbes looked at that, and that's when they came out with their ProSlate device. So again, this is a ProSlate. It is a dedicated speech generating device, and it is iOS based. And so to hit some of those pain points, first off, durability. So we've created a device that is encased in this nice, sleek, but durable case. It's been drop tested, it's been thrown downstairs, it's truly been tested to make sure it's durable for the population of users that are using our device. Not to mention, if something were to happen to the device, there's this nice plastic covering on the case. So if the glass shards were to if the glass were to break and there's shards inside, they're not going to escape this case. They're going to stay in there, and so our users aren't going to get cut on those shards. And beyond that, so now we have a broken device in our case, but since it is a dedicated speech device, our company provides the best industry warranty. It's a 5-year warranty, and the reason being is because whenever insurance funds a device, they say the device has a 5-year lifespan. And so with a lot of other companies, after that 3-4 year mark, if something were to happen to your device, you have to go through this process. You have to get a speech language pathologist to write an addendum, you have to submit a claim to insurance, you have to send it into the company, and then we wait for that payment, and then the repair happens. And now you've taken a proficient communicator, you've taken their voice away from them. And that's just not functional, and it's not something that we want to see happen in our population of users. So Forbes created a 5-year worry-free warranty with our ProSlate 4, 8, and 10. So that gives you the comfort of knowing if something were to happen during the life of your communication device, that you can send it into Forbes and we will replace that device for you and get the voice back to our user. I'm going beyond that. We talked about the volume of the users that were using an iPad. Well, the ProSlate has a SoundPod, this external speaker. So this amplifies that volume from the device. You see it detaches, but this can also be rigidly attached because I know some of our users are a little rough or may like the idea of this coming off and being able to be thrown. So it can be rigidly attached. But let me just give a little demonstration on volume. So before I turn the SoundPod off, I'm going to turn the volume all the way up so you can kind of hear. I'm going to say go.
Go.
So it's a decent volume, but if there were to be other children around me speaking, the child next to me might hear that, but nobody beyond that is going to hear. So now I'm going to turn my SoundPod on. I'm going to turn that up, and let's listen to that again.
Go.
Make sure I get that right light.
Go.
Okay, so that was a little bit louder, but still probably not loud enough to get the attention of somebody across the room.
Go.
And now you hear that has raised that volume quite significantly to be able to get the attention of somebody across the room. So that's one feature. It was created and designed to just amplify the volume. But then the designer and engineer thought, well, what if this was able to be removed and placed in a more natural location? And so then the second design feature of the SoundPod came into play. So I can either conceal this or I can wear it as a necklace. So now whenever I was communicating and you were waiting to hear what I said, your eyes are probably drawn to the device because that's where the volume is, or that's where the voice is coming from. But now my device is over here and I'm speaking to you.
Go.
And the volume came from me. So this is going to create a natural communication experience for our device users. There's no longer a need to draw attention or to look at my communication device. I am communicating with you, I am looking at you, and my voice is coming from me. So you can draw your attention to me and you can wait for my response and we can communicate and provide that natural experience. So that's the second design feature of the SoundPod. But then the third, this is more for caregivers, teachers, anybody who needs to keep that line of communication with our communication partner, but may need to go, up to the front of the classroom, may need to go into the kitchen to cook dinner, may need to run into their bedroom to fold laundry, whatever it may be. But there's that sense of, insecurity of leaving the communication user, especially with some of our more complex kiddos. So with the SoundPod, you can take this up to 75 feet out of range of the device, and it's still going to transmit that voice. So if I were to need something, I were to need help, I were to need something immediately, I can set off an alarm, I can say help, I can say mom, 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 and my communication partner knows that I need them and can run back into the room. This is a great feature for pediatric population, but also in that adult population with some of our progressive diseases. Towards the end of the disease, we see a lot of our users are bedbound, but their caregivers, they might need just a few moments to step out, but they have that, that sense of insecurity again of leaving the side, but this gives that safety and security. This allows for them to walk into the living room for a minute and know that if their loved one needs them, they can communicate with them. So that's the third feature of our SoundPod, and this is something that's exclusive to Forbes, and it's a really unique and I think valuable feature on our device. And it comes on all of our ProSlate devices, size 4 all the way up to 13, and it also comes on our WinSlate device as well. Now while we're on the back of the device, you see our beautiful flex-able handle. And this is another Forbes exclusive feature. We do have a patent on this handle, so you're not going to see it on any other devices. Just as the name says, it's very flexible. It's a flex-able. It's ergonomic in design so that it's able to be pushed and also pulled. And you can see there, if I don't have great dexterity, great fine motor control or grasp, I can use my gross motor movements to adjust my device. So that gives me that independence to be able to position it in a position that I need it without having to call on a caregiver or somebody else to assist in that. And if I need to lift it back up, again, I can use my gross motor movements to adjust my device. The flex-able handle, it positions in infinite ways, so I can adjust it just a centimeter, or I can go all the way inches. However I need that adjusted, this handle allows for that. It has these nice grippy features that keep that device in place as I'm adjusting. Not to mention, it's also flexible and able to wrap around my arm for handling. I don't have to have great grasp. I can just position it right like that, and now I can carry my device around. So that is our flex-able handle. Again, we have a patent on that handle. And something earlier, I don't know if you noticed, but whenever I wanted to get into the device, I had to grab a pin because we have this nice home button cover. This is so important because there's so many individuals that don't realize we have this, and they say, well, I have a user who perseverates on clicking the home button, or they think that this is their iPad and that they can click out of it to find a game. And so we have this home button cover that alleviates that pain point. And so you would need a pin or a stylus to be able to get through to that home button to then click into the communication device. And while we're on the front, so we kind of talked about having some of those individuals who don't have great fine motor control, or they don't have great strength. And so we still have our key guards. Forbes got started designing key guards, so we truly do know how to make and create a key guard. We do custom key guards, holes of all shapes and sizes. We have clear and we have black. Our key guards are nice and thick.
Goes.
And the importance of that thickness is if I have an individual who needs the extra support to be able to lay their hand on the device and ladder up to the button that they need, this provides that barrier between the screen and my palm. So I'm not activating buttons that I'm not wanting to activate. I can now use this key guard to get to the button that I need and activate. It also provides a nice visual separation of the buttons too, especially in the black color key guard. All of our devices come with a shoulder strap, so you can attach that shoulder strap on, and that's another way to position and handle and carry the device around. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's important to note all of our devices come in a couple different color options. For example, our ProSlate 10, you can get it in sky blue, pink, rose gold, this nice sleek black. We have lots of different color options. So here's one of our cut sheets that you can see come the pink color. You can see that sky blue color. There's our ProSlate 4-inch in a pink, that beautiful cotton white. So they are available in multiple colors as well. So this again is our ProSlate series. This is the ProSlate 10, and it comes in a couple different sizes. Those sizes are ProSlate 4, which is the 4-inch, a ProSlate 8, a ProSlate 10, and our ProSlate 13. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to talk to you about our devices, and thank you so much.